you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up.
To the untrained eye, Bikini Bottom looks like a lovely place to live. The worst you'd have to deal with are some mildly annoying neighbors and some more than mildly unhealthy food. Well, and the lack of oxygen outside of Sandy's place, of course. But there are some nasty criminals in the deep blue sea with crimes far worse than stealing a balloon. I'm Andrew with Wicked Binge, and whether they've stolen, assaulted, or worst of all, littered. Today we're sentencing SpongeBob villains for their crimes.
Sure, we're safe. Now give me some pizza!
To clarify, we aren't members of the Bikini Bottom Police, so we don't exactly know all of the ins and outs of the undersea judiciary system, so we can only do our best to uphold justice. Before we begin, there's one SpongeBob antagonist who doesn't really have any crimes under his robe, but Squilliam Fancy Son deserves an honorable mention. He's constantly getting under his old band class rival Squidward's skin, taking every opportunity he can to one-up him and rub in the fact that Squidward is a sad man in a dead-end job while Squilliam is living all his dreams.
I'm waiting.
It's a darn shame we can't give Squilliam a criminal sentence, because we really don't like the guy, but we'll settle by telling him to talk things out with Squidward. Seriously, we don't know if Squidward stole your bike or robbed your house or is your scorned lover. Just work things out and let the squid live his life, man. Now pay attention, everyone. Class is in session for our first criminal villain, Mrs. Puff. She's certainly the least villainous character on our list, as in fact she's actually very pleasant most of the time, but that doesn't mean Mrs. Puff doesn't have her fair share of shady deeds. For one, in No Free Rides, she gives SpongeBob a license knowing full well how bad of a driver he is. Later, when she realizes the danger, she steals his new boatmobile.
A brand new boatmobile!
But while this was pretty bad, she actually did get arrested at the end. In fact, Mrs. Puff gets arrested quite frequently, ever since one of her first appearances in Hall Monitor. But there's one episode that stands out, Demolition Doofus. In this episode, Mrs. Puff is injured by SpongeBob once again and decides to try and get rid of him by entering him into a demolition derby. And yes, that's just as morbid as it sounds. Mrs. Puff is genuinely conspiring to get SpongeBob killed. At the end of the episode, she comes in with her own vehicle, tearing down the stadium and her own school as she chases SpongeBob down. This attempted murder is by far her worst crime, and given how familiar Mrs. Puff is with prison, we don't imagine the officers would object to locking her up once again. But honestly, given Mrs. Puff's horrible luck, we'd say her sentence would more likely be teaching SpongeBob for life. Sorry, Puff Mama. The slammer's sounding pretty good now, huh? Speaking of things that sound good, anyone for some Krabby Patties? Bubble Bass sure is, but make sure you don't forget the pickles. Bubble Bass is one of the most iconic one-off characters in classic SpongeBob. Even though he returns in later seasons as a recurring character, Bubble Bass appears seldom in the first 3 seasons, with his only major role being in the episode Pickles. In this episode, we see Bubble Bass trying to scam the Krusty Krab into giving him a free sandwich by demanding a refund from Mr. Krabs.
I'll take a double triple bossy deluxe on a raft.
Claiming that SpongeBob forgot the pickles on his burger, but the whole time he was hiding them under his tongue. He also apparently stole a woman's car keys, which escalates this from regular scamming to theft. In the episode FUN, he makes a cameo appearance in which he squishes Plankton with his massive butt. The guy's bad news all around. And while he's not an irredeemable monster, he's a huge jerk who isn't above stealing from and scamming people. Still, given the smaller scale of his crimes, we'll give Bubble Bass a light sentence of 6 months in prison. Oh, and of course, Mr. Krabs is gonna need that $2 back. Up next, we have a character who's a little bit more threatening than everyone's favorite underwater neckbeard. He's a vicious, cold-blooded predator. He's Dennis. Let's just say this guy would have no problem getting into the salty spittoon. He's the aforementioned bounty hunter hired by Plankton with the intent of getting SpongeBob and Patrick out of the picture. Even Plankton himself describes Dennis as a vicious, cold-blooded predator.
Finally.
He's a brutal bounty hunter with a gigantic spiked boot to execute his enemies, and he himself assures his victims that it's gonna hurt a lot. Dennis is certainly one of the more dangerous threats to underwater safety, but with that being said, we've seen how the Bikini Bottom police dealt with the Tattletale Strangler. Even with a ridiculous amount of handcuffs, he still managed to escape against all odds, rather easily too. We'll say that, for how dangerous he is, Dennis will get 20 years in prison, but he'll probably escape within 3 days by intimidating the officers. Okay, it's time to get to the character with the smallest stature but the biggest list of crimes, Sheldon J. Plankton. He's Bikini Bottom's most notorious criminal, and he's been stealing the Krabby Patty formula since 1999, and it doesn't seem like he'll be stopping anytime soon. But theft isn't the only dirty deed under Plankton's belt. He's guilty of attempted murder, kidnapping, assault, blackmail, psychological manipulation, enslaving the entire population of Bikini Bottom. You name it, he's done it. He's also contracted a bounty hunter, played God by transforming the citizens of Bikini Bottom into babies, and perhaps worst of all is his crime of owning the chum bucket. That might sound like a joke, but chum, by definition, is chopped up animal or vegetable product used to lure fish. This animal product can in fact include fish guts, so yeah, he's basically endorsing cannibalism. He's certainly the most dangerous creature in Bikini Bottom, which would usually make a life sentence certain. The issue, of course, is that Plankton is, well, microscopic. The guy's not exactly going to be held by your typical jail cell.
Well, this stinks.
Even after being arrested at the end of the SpongeBob movie, Plankton apparently got out since he's, out after the movie. Given all of Plankton's history, we'll sentence him to jail time until he escapes. Once that happens, we'll just wait on the next patty napping and continue the cycle. But honestly, maybe his notoriously unsuccessful reputation is his punishment. Besides, it's not like his thievery is likely to result in legal action, considering Mr. Krabs is far from an innocent man himself. Mr. Krabs is sometimes a heroic character and a caring father figure to SpongeBob, but that doesn't excuse him from his heinous deeds. Apart from the more eccentric deeds like selling SpongeBob's soul to the Flying Dutchman, which we're not really sure how to even analyze as a crime,
You think I could have gotten more?
Mr. Krabs is constantly violating his workers' rights. He charges them for breathing, lollygagging, and even existing, not to mention severely underpaying them. In Bummer Vacation, it's revealed that SpongeBob had worked so often that he had to take a vacation day, otherwise Krabs would have to pay a fine. Speaking of, that fine was a quarter, which SpongeBob states is more than he makes in a year. The episode Big Pink Loser reveals that SpongeBob had to pay Mr. Krabs $100 per hour to work at the Krusty Krab. We're not exactly sure how money works in Bikini Bottom, but there's no way that's okay. If that's not bad enough, the episode Life of Crime reveals Mr. Krabs' habit of stealing. Borrowing items from Bikini Bottom citizens without their knowledge. In Out of the Picture, he tries to murder Squidward. In One Course Meal, he harasses and psychologically torments Plankton. Okay, honestly, Plankton's got some competition. As much as we all love the greedy guy, the amount of crimes he's committed is actually ridiculous. As far as sentencing goes, we're reminded of the episode Patty Caper, in which Mr. Krabs is punished for stealing his own formula by being forced to sell his Krabby Patties for free for an entire day. This was essentially torture for Mr. Krabs, but honestly, if he's gonna be rehabilitated, he's got a lot of debt to repay. Our sentence for Mr. Krabs is giving away 1 million free Krabby Patties. And some free glasses of water to wash it all down, of course. Man, these sentences are really getting complicated. Maybe it would help to call Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. They've done well to protect the sea from the Dirty Bubble. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's arch nemesis, the Dirty Bubble, is SpongeBob's favorite supervillain. He also seems to be one of the most durable, even after being popped by SpongeBob in his debut appearance. He comes back rather frequently. Given his penchant for filth and frequent attempts to capture Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, kidnapping and assault are the Dirty Bubble's most notorious crimes. During his time with Evil, he joins Barnacle Man and Man Ray to harass the town with pranks. But there's one episode that paints this nasty bubble in a more sympathetic light. In the episode Dirty Bubble Returns, the Dirty Bubble turns into the Clean Bubble and actually tries hard to clean up his act. It turns out that when he's not covered in grime, he's able to be friendly and peaceful, even taking on a job at the Krusty Krab alongside SpongeBob. It's only when he gives in to the temptation to dirty himself up again that he becomes his old, villainous self once more. It's entirely likely that the Dirty Bubble has an addiction to grime, and, like with many addictions, it's what caused his life to spiral downhill. This doesn't really excuse the Dirty Bubble's misdeeds, however, so we'll give him 5 years in prison plus mandatory addiction counseling. When he starts making progress, we'll offer him some parole, but maybe we also need to keep him from the Krusty Krab, and Neptune forbid the chum bucket. While the Dirty Bubble is the arch nemesis to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, Man Ray is arguably the most iconic. In the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3, he's unwittingly released from his frozen tartar sauce prison and allowed to run wild in Bikini Bottom once more. He attempts to rob a bank and would have gone through with it were it not for SpongeBob's rehabilitation through his tickle belt. While he seems to have lost the urge to do bad in this episode, he's rather inconsistent. While he's sometimes a peaceful, ordinary citizen like in shuffleboarding, other times he's back to his old ways, like his time with Evil, or his past of attempted world domination. Still, if SpongeBob and Patrick's time with him in his debut appearance was any indication, he's actually perfectly capable of being reformed. Our sentence for Man Ray is the tickle belt, and a parole officer to activate it whenever he acts up. Not to torture the guy, just to make sure he's staying on the straight and narrow.
That would be fantastic!
In other words, please don't give this responsibility to Patrick. These two may have Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy to keep the citizens of Bikini Bottom safe, but y'all best beware of the ominous Flying Dutchman, and may Neptune have mercy on the souls who dare disturb him.
Dutchman's residence.
So, as I was saying, you and me gotta hang out more.
Excluding King Neptune, he's quite possibly the most powerful villain in all of Bikini Bottom, able to move with great speed, turn others into ghosts, and even grant wishes. The Flying Dutchman has few limits to what he can do. He also seems to be Bikini Bottom's Grim Reaper, taking the souls of fish and other sea creatures to Davy Jones's locker. It may be a bit more likely that he acts as a reaper for the more vile citizens of Bikini Bottom, which begs the question, does the Flying Dutchman count as a citizen of Bikini Bottom? He seems more like a supernatural figure than anything else, so it's honestly questionable whether he's subject to its laws. Besides, it's not as though locking the Dutchman up is gonna do anything, since he's a ghost. We don't know how to sentence the Dutchman, so we'll just keep our distance and make sure we don't shave off his beard by accident. King Neptune was on the table for this list, but since he's Bikini Bottom's king, we're not really sure how he could be sentenced. So we're giving mention to King Poseidon, king of the lost city of Atlantic City.
Let the proceedings begin!
He's the main antagonist for Sponge on the Run. For one thing, he's certainly guilty of animal abuse, using the slime of snails to keep up his flawless skin's appearance. When they're used up, he discards them to be used as slaves in his dungeon. He also attempted to execute SpongeBob when he came by to get Gary back. Like Neptune, he's an abuser of his power, and if he were tried by the Bikini Bottomites, it's safe to say they wouldn't be too happy with him trying to kill one of their most beloved citizens. That said, he does seem remorseful by the movie's end, so we'll sentence King Poseidon to a $1 million fine for mass snail napping, and of course, stripping him of that crown. There's a reason nobody genuinely wanted to be his friend in the whole city. He's an awful ruler, to be frank. He can keep the casino, though. And there's one last villain to go, as far as the movies are concerned, the notorious pirate Burger Beard. He falls into the category of crimes we aren't even sure how to categorize. It's not every day you see someone literally rewriting the fabric of reality so he can get rich. That's at least mass theft, tacking on assault when the heroes of Bikini Bottom arrive to get the formula back, extortion for him threatening his adorable singing seagulls to keep them working for him, and that's all without considering the whole rewriting the fabric of reality thing. The man is simply too dangerous to be kept on the streets in any capacity. He's buried in the sand at the end of the movie, but we'll say that whenever he gets out, he's going to be buried in prison for life. We will allow his birds to stay with him, however. That ought to teach him. We're nearing the end of today's video, and we've saved the most utterly despicable villain for last. He's the most cold, heartless monster in the series history. And oh brother, this guy stinks! That's right, it's the pizza delivery customer. Everyone knows the classic episode Pizza Delivery, where SpongeBob and Squidward work to get a Krabby Patty pizza over to a customer. When SpongeBob finally reaches his door, the customer callously throws the pizza back in his face, accusing him of forgetting his Diet Dr. Kelp.
Where's my drink?
You know, a drink he didn't order. Thankfully, Squidward comes around to give the guy a taste of his own medicine. Now, technically the pizza customer didn't commit any crimes here, but are we just gonna wait around until he does? Okay, maybe we can't arrest the guy, but we're still gonna give him the penalty of a mandatory handwritten apology to SpongeBob, or else we're sending Squidward back to his house to deal with him.